you able to see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so today for the unit BSBWRT311 Write Simple Documents, this is assessment instrument 1, the RPL interview questions. So just in general, I know we've been through it before, but just confirming that you're aware of the not yet competent process and the rights to appeal, which
Yep.
was outlined in your student guide. So for this unit, like we did previously, the assessment, there's 15 questions which you will have to answer. So it shouldn't take any more than 30 minutes to complete. You'll answer these questions. I'll write them down while you're answering them. If you have any questions, let me know. If you need me to repeat anything, I'm more than happy to do so, or otherwise we can come back to a question if you're not too sure of the answer.
Yep.
Um, So we'll just get started. So tell me about the type of documents you create in your job. What are they and who are they for?
So we do monthly observations to observe the child one-on-one to see their developmental skills. And whatever we're working on at the time, we usually base that around, like the experience is usually based around our monthly curriculum, which is also what we do. So it's to follow throughout the month to ensure that all the developmental needs are met, as well as we follow it for the early childhood outcomes. So we have those, the 5 outcomes, we have to follow them. So we usually base our curriculum around them as well.
Did you say outlines the children's interests or the goals?
Are they outline yeah, goals, the children's outcomes and goals. And also like with the parents, they usually do like an all about me form, or like is there certain things you want us to work on with the child, and some of them like specific. So certain developmental milestones they sort of want them reaching. So we sort of also base it around that as well.
Yep. Okay, so for one of your documents, tell me how you determined your audience, purpose, and requirements for your document according to organization policies and procedures.
So the monthly observations is for families to look at. We follow the policy to ensure the minimum requirements are in there, and they are like, and it is a detailed observation of the child. So our policy is to ensure that those monthly observations are done for that specific reason. So we have to make sure that it's detailed, it's one-on-one, it's personal. We just have to ensure that all of that, as well as the obviously the outcome, like what outcome it was reaching, how the child reached that outcome, sort of things.
Yep. So I'm not going to write all that because I feel like we've covered it with the first part of the answer, so that's okay. So for one of your documents, tell me how you determined the required format, style, and structure for the document.
So our documents are actually started by our educational leader. She usually like does like the minimum, like the certain things that we need to add. We then we add the necessary information in regards to our children in our rooms. So again, we base it on our children's interest needs, developmental skills and stuff, and we sort of work around that.
So our documents are pre-made by educational leader. She adds the minimum information and then we add the additional information needed. Did you say to or for the children?
Yeah, for the children. So she obviously she can't add like what she doesn't know our children like obviously day to day. So we
Yeah.
do. So we make it personal, basically.
And what document type is this? Is this an observation? Is this
So the monthly observations, yeah. So it's pre-started and then we fill it in as necessary.
Yep. Okay, so for one of your documents, tell me how you established the correct method of communication.
So we follow our curriculum based and we base our experience on it. So this ensures that the outcomes are met and the requirements are met as well.
And you mean like the requirements for communication?
Yeah, requirements for the communication, the
Yeah.
requirements like the families need.
Yeah. So for one of your documents, tell me how you established key points to be included in your document.
So usually with our curriculum, our room leader creates the draft document alongside our educational leader. We then come together as a group in the room, and we fill out like the personal things on our children, basically the personal things.
Yep. If you see that I've written anything wrong, just let me know. I can change it.
Yeah.
So for one of the documents, tell me how you developed the draft document to communicate key points.
So when collecting the document, we ensure to jot down all the requirements in the draft. So when it comes to finalising the document, we know what needs to be added into it.
So when collecting the document, we ensure to jot down all the, what did you say after that?
All the requirements in the draft,
Yeah.
and then when it comes to finalising it, we add it. And we don't have to like keep referring back. We know what to add.
Yeah. So how did you ensure your drafts met the purpose and requirements for the document?
Um, I didn't need to add any additional information that I need to add into my draft documents because these documents were already proofread beforehand by our educational leader and our room leader. So to ensure all the information was correct and completed. So
Is this, are you referring to this question? How did you ensure? Or are you referring to this one? How did you obtain and include additional required information?
what what unit number is it? PC two.
PC 2.2.
Oh no, I'm doing 2.3. Jokes.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think that answer sounds like it's for the 2.3. So what's the 2.2?
So
How did
when
you ensure?
collecting the document, I ensure to jot down all the requirements in the draft. Then it's easier to sort of add it.
Yeah. Okay. And what was that answer again for the next one?
There was no additional information that I needed to add into my draft because these documents are proofread beforehand to ensure all information was correct and completed. So everything that we do, our room leader always usually proofreads, or our educational leader, or sometimes even our director can proofread them as well before submitting
So
it.
there was no additional information I needed to add into the draft. What was after that?
Information I need to add into my big documents because these documents were already proofread beforehand.
Yeah. So in your workplace, are there any documents that you must have your supervisor or colleague, for example, proofread before you can send them?
Yeah, so the most important one is our incident reports within the workplace. So if there's an incident within it, like two children, we fill it out, but it has to be proofread by the supervisor. It actually needs to be signed by multiple people. So it needs to be signed by the responsible person at the time plus the director. So it's usually proofread twice before it's handed to the parent, which then the parent signs.
Yeah. So what changes did you have to make to one of your documents? Discuss how you ensured those changes were correctly made. And example, the document was checked again before it was finalized.
When conducting a risk assessment, I always, obviously, it's always proofread by my supervisor. During this discussion, she mentioned that one of the hazards which I documented should have been rated higher. So I didn't rate it high enough. So this was something that I had to change when then checked over this document again before finalized. So I had to redo it and then it had to be re-proofread and then I could submit it.
Let me make sure I got that because I was typing really fast. When conducting a risk assessment, it is always proofread. During this discussion, um, she mentioned that one of the hazards that I documented should have been rated higher. This is something I had to change when checking over this document again before submitting. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so how did you check your documents for spelling, grammar, and punctuation issues?
I always proofread my own work, and then I send it to the educator to look over it. So usually, if I'm writing something, I'll either get another educator in the room or my room leader to look over it before, so that, to make sure that the punctuation, spelling, grammar is correct.
Yeah. So what is what is your process for ensuring your document is readable and that the sentences, paragraph sequencing, and structure of the document are correct?
So the documents have specific formats which initiate where certain information needs to be recorded. So a lot of our records and stuff already are pre-filled. So the questions that you need to answer for that, like for that certain document or incident, it makes it easier for us to read and allocate where the information needs to go. It also helps us with filling it out properly. Yeah.
Mistakes. God for automatic grammar. So, what are two examples of your organization's policies and procedures for written documents?
Children's safety, children's health, and staffing arrangements.
Is the children's safety and health one
Sorry, it
of
could be, yeah, children's health and safety, and then staffing arrangements.
Yeah, almost finished. So, when would you use general emails in a work setting to communicate something and why?
Could be used to communicate with families about updated policies, upcoming events, and holidays closing times.
Did I do that right? Could be used to communicate with families about upcoming holidays, events, and closing times.
Yeah, and updated policies.
Oh, yeah. So, when would you use procedures to communicate something and why?
If there was an outbreak of a sickness or an illness that's within the service, so for example, hand, foot, and mouth, chickenpox, anything like that, we take we alert the parents so that way there's a minimal risk of spreading the illness or sickness.
All right, third last. So, when would you use business letters and why?
You can use business letters. What do you mean business letters?
So pretty much like it's anything like formal. So in your case, being in a childcare center, um, it could be something like letters to a family about a child's development. So anything that you would formally write in an email,
Oh,
um,
okay.
as opposed to general communication. For example, you said you use Story Park. So that is more general. If you were doing something about a child's development or something that was more serious, you would use a business letter, I would say.
Okay, so you could use them obviously to communicate with families about the children's developmental concerns, like if there's something that is concerning and it needs to be expressed obviously in a formal way, you would use a business letter, or I would use a business letter.
Yeah, so obviously using one to communicate a child's developmental concerns would be
Yep.
one of those. So when would you use a meeting agenda and why?
I would use a meeting agenda when in a team meeting. It to pinpoint topics of concern and focus on key issues without getting sidetracked. So it's always good to have that set out so you know exactly what the meeting's going to be. It's also time efficient.
All right, now lucky last we have. So it says, if not covered in the above questions, prompt what are three examples of different format styles and structures of for documents.
Incident reports, risk assessments, and observations.
Yeah. Right, so as you can see, I've marked all of those satisfactory. So the assessment result, I'm going to tick that off now. There won't be any resubmission for this assessment tasks, and I will submit your feedback later when I give you your email written version of this assessment results. So just scrolling down now to assessment instrument 2. So this is the RPL product evidence. So unfortunately, you haven't actually provided me with these documents yet. However, so I'm not able to do this checklist with you at the moment, which means, unfortunately, I can't mark you as competent for the overall unit until you do provide me with those documents. However, with the questions above, you did just give me 3 documents here in this answer, so I'm pretty confident that you'll be able to provide me with those. Do you have any questions about that or any
No,
concerns?
I'll get those to you. Yeah, I'll get them to you.
All right, cool. I think that's all for today.